But to add to that, I mean, they say that live sports is the best form of reality TV ever. Like,
Yeah, there are no retakes there.
yeah, exactly.
No
So yeah,
retakes,
so I mean, when you transform to digital media, so you get that impromptu news and bites, so that and people also can kind of get connected. I remember Crickbuzz website getting crashed when Sachin scored that 200.
You cannot fool the reader or the viewer anymore.
Correct. Yeah.
So there was a time where if I'm sitting some thousands of miles away and I'm saying whatever I'm saying, that become gospel for most people.
Correct. Yeah.
But today I cannot fib around. I cannot fool the reader because they're seeing everything on television, right? So one of the greatest examples is of a legend of Indian sport. We will not name him because he's a legend. He got a certain place in the Olympic Games, and he has talked consistently about how he made a mistake and therefore he could not get a medal. This worked very well until we saw YouTube videos, right? The YouTube videos make it very clear that you can't come back and sell a story to people. You have to be honest. You have to be truth. I have the highest respect for this legend. Maybe that was how people were back then.
Do you see that this has happened consistently across our history in our athlete sport, and it is happening today also, where like athlete themselves oversell or like trying to tell a story from their lens to get some kind of a traction towards them, to get some government support funding, because lot of the Olympic sports in India is funded by the government. Like Indian government spends the more money than most of the other countries, but we still don't get the result. And the ecosystem that we've created across the years in the desperation to get the Olympics medal, we haven't been able to grow the sport from the grassroots. It's just a lot of time we see athletes coming out and like selling emotional stories to the viewer, because at the end of the day, a normal population of this country wants to support our athletes. They want us to do well, and every 4 years there is a question in their mind that why aren't we winning medals, and the short answer, the quickest answer is because there's no money, no support from the government and all. So despite government doing so much, so what I'm trying to understand is like
I think it's a very convenient answer that government is not doing.
Athletes themselves are like should we help athletes accountable for their performances, and accountability, where does the accountability
So it's a great question, and there is no easy answer to this, Ankush. I'll be very honest with you. There's no easy answer, because there are lots of athletes who tell you the truth. There are some athletes who have a sob story to tell, and typically everybody knows sob stories sell in the market, sell more than the truth itself, right? So whether they're doing it deliberately, whether their agents are sparking it, is very hard to say. But by and large, most of the athletes tell us the true story. Especially if there is a journalist present at the venue, they don't tell us stories of how I was so close to winning but I did not win. There will be some reasons that they give you, but if this come across as logical, it gets reported. But back in the 60s and 70s, not too many journalists would go. So it was easy for them to tell us a story saying that I had a problem, the judging in the boxing ring was not right, or the referees were not favoring me in a wrestling bout. So you had to take the athlete's word back then. Not anymore, because there are multiple ways of cross-checking the facts. And I don't blame the athletes. It is the ecosystem around them which sometimes encourages them. I go back to one example that we were discussing before we started recording, of this athlete posting about what more do I need to do to get recognized in this country. Obviously the athlete wanted the Khel Ratna, and so there was timing of that tweet or the post was identified perhaps by the manager, or maybe even run by the manager. So what I learned is, as a journalist, I read and I then process it and say, okay, I'll take this seriously or I will not take this seriously. So we have the choice.
Right.
But most of us love to spark a controversy, and that because that's what sells. That's what, and today we are all in a very competitive era. I want to sell more newspapers. I want a more number of people to watch my television channel, or I want more people to read my writings. Right. So sometimes we lose sight and we cross the line, but it's not always the athlete who does this. So see, they do a lot of hard work. I sympathize with them. I also empathize with the fact that they don't have the same opportunities like some other sports people do. I'll give you an example. The badminton team, whenever it travels, is supported by the government of India because their Olympic qualification is based on rankings.
Yeah. They have to go.
The tennis team doesn't get that kind of support because they also are selected on ranking. Their entry into the Olympic Games happens on ranking, but they play a lot more than the badminton players. So maybe the government doesn't want to support the tennis players. So typically a Somdev Devarman or Sumit Nagal would start a little bit about how they don't get enough support. I think I remember Sumit's tweet saying how he didn't have enough
He
bank
had
balance.
900 euros.
900 euros in his pocket, 500 euros something like that.
No, I also remember a time where I had to write against a blind swimmer. I'm sorry I'm breaking this up, but she talked to the media about how she had to beg and borrow in Berlin to compete in a World Cup. It so happened that she was traveling by a tram. She had not bought tickets. हमारे देश में हम छोड़ देते हैं. वहाँ पे she was fined, and because she didn't have enough money in her pocket, she had to borrow from a fellow athlete. Her own sister also traveled, and she has proper vision. She also didn't buy a ticket. So for the two of them, they had to borrow from a friend to pay the fine, go back to the hotel and give the money. So it's sorted. But to make it sound like you have to beg and borrow, it became a controversy. I had to dig and find out that it is not really a controversy.
That is same with all the visa issues that happen with the athlete, right? I'm like most of the time,
Miss the deadlines.
There is the due diligence that needs to be done for the visa are not done by the either official or the athlete themselves, and then there will be far cry of that it's not happening.